Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Hunt the Wild podcast. This is episode 2 with Dr. Josh Farr. How you doing, Josh?
Doing great, Adam.
Good to hear, man. It's nice to have you on here. I know we've been talking on TikTok and stuff for a little bit.
Absolutely. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, sir. Could you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and a little about your business and what you like to hunt and just, those sorts of things?
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Josh Farr. I'm from central Pennsylvania. Teacher by nature, but I also own my own business, which is Drop-Tine custom skull dipping. And I started that here in the past few years. Start out primarily as like dipping skulls, hydro dipping skulls, but I kind of evolved more into now like firearms, Cerakote, pretty much anything that somebody can dip. I've been doing for people. So I've had people bring me in some automotive parts. I mean, all types of weird things that just kind of took off from there. But primarily, I focus on skulls here the next few months with hunting season coming up, and then been customizing a lot of firearms for people with specific logos or brands and things of that nature. Have a few I'm working on now for some ladies that are pinks and purples and things like that. So quite unique. But I grew up in Central PA. I've been hunting for ever since I can remember as a child. My grandparents all got me out frequently. My grandfather, especially, he got me out all the time. Every season we were out fishing, hunting is a year-round process. So pretty much here I hunt mostly whitetail and turkey. We do hunt bear, but where I'm at, like it's not the best for hunting for bear. We have to go up the mountain a little bit. And then a few other things too, hunt coyote in the winter and things of that nature. But primary here where I'm at in my region, it's mostly whitetail. Um, it's been interesting the past few years because Pennsylvania went to more of a structured point system for the deer. So the past few years, we've been getting some more trophy and monster whitetail out of our area, which is definitely helping things for our management issue.
So I have to ask you, Josh, how did you get involved in doing this dipping stuff? Did you just like pick it up as a hobby? You just like wanted to do your own, or I know it's got to
So
be somewhat complicated.
right. I started out with my own. I started shooting some, like I said, some nice deer and stuff. And I'm not sure like what taxidermy is in your area, but it can get quite costly here in my area very
Mm-hmm.
quickly. I mean, you look at a shoulder mount on the low end, we're talking 500-600 bucks. And one of my buddies do it. That's like a real good professional. You know, he's somewhere up in that 1800 range. I mean, so it adds up quite quickly. And I started shooting some deer that were very nice deer, but I wouldn't say huge trophy deer. So I said, seen these mounts out there. I've seen some different people doing some hydro dipping. I said, I'm going to give this a shot. So I started out like in a tub. I watched all these YouTube videos and all these reading these things. I'm like, I think I can do this. First few I did, they came out okay. They didn't come out great. And then I just kind of went from there. So I did a few of my own, and then a few of my hunting buddies. I just kind of went from there. And then all of a sudden, like people at my work and, you know, my dad would start telling people about it. And all of a sudden I had a good influx of people saying that, hey, we want these here. So the past 2 years is really when it started to fly for me quite a bit. I have a professional setup now. I have a specific tank. I mean, the activators, the air guns, HPLV guns are like crazy expensive, and you know, air hoses and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
I've had a lot of practice. It's just figuring out what different films and everything you want to use, and it's a big learning curve. I'll tell you that. These people that do it on YouTube and stuff, they make it look real easy, and it's not by any means. And I'm quite a perfectionist to begin with, so I get quite frustrated sometimes when things don't want to come out just right, or if I just see a minor detail that just doesn't look great. But it's definitely a lot harder than what it looks. I can tell you that. You see people do it all the time online. It's not that easy. They're cut out quite a bit. I consult with a guy down in Georgia, and he's a big company, very good things. Like
Mm-hmm.
he cuts out his videos and stuff all the time. Just I think he's in year 10 or 11 right now, and he even still like makes mistakes and things happen. It just doesn't set up right in prep. It's very finicky. It's even the film and stuff. I have to keep it at a certain temperature, certain humidity level all the time. How long you put it on the tank, like it's all different things. How much spray you put on. I mean, there's a lot of variables that go into it, and each one's a bit different. So definitely not harder than what it looks. I can tell you that.
I imagine it could be nerve-wracking too, because you're working with people's, prized possession that they've been after maybe sometimes 3, 4, or 5 years trying to get a deer.
Absolutely. I had a few this year that came in, and they were monsters. I mean, we're talking 170, 180 class deer that were just. They brought it into me, and I'm saying, "Are you sure you don't kind of want to full mount on this or shoulder mount something different?" And I'm like, no, 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 we want this. So that was a little nerve wracking at first, just because they were so big for me even to get them in my tank to begin with. You got to hit them with a certain angle and stuff, but they're like my tank's like 6.5 feet by 4.5, 5 feet, and I'll tell you, some of these big ones were taking it up pretty good. So it can be definitely nerve wracking. This past year, ironically, I had a lot of people come in with their first deer. So a lot of kids came in, they wanted them done with these different cool patterns, whatever they would like. And I didn't advertise this at the time, but a lot of the parents was hoping that I could get it turned back around to them by Christmas time. So it could be like a present for them or just kind of a surprise for them. So our deer season runs right after Thanksgiving to like the second week of December. And talk about nerve wracking. I had to turn these deer heads around like instantly. And with the whole COVID and the pandemic, like shipping was hanging me up. I was dipping skulls, Christmas Eve, so I could get them out to people to get them underneath their tree. Like, it's like I felt horrible, but it's just one of those things, And you want it to be right, you want it to look right. It's like, and then I'm here at 10 o'clock at night wrapping Christmas presents for kids I don't even know.
So do you guys have like patterns you pick out, or how? I mean, is it just like camouflage? How does somebody go about picking it? And also, when you get the skulls, are they clean? You guys clean them with Beetles? You guys pressure wash them? How's that work?
So as far as patterns go, I pretty much use different mossy oak ones. They're branded. I use a lot of I think it's called HTC. True Timber I use too, quite a bit of those. So a lot of things that you see like in Bass Pro, Cabela's, all those camos, I have access to all of them. Veil, pretty much any camo that's out there. Like I have Q, pretty much anything you can get, I dip. There's a lot that I recommend just because I had a lot of use with them and know how they kind of come out and things like that. But there's literally thousands and thousands of films out there. If it's something you can imagine, it's probably out there. And I'm not talking just like, there's hundreds of just camo patterns alone. But then you're talking, they have cartoons and they have skulls and they have flames. I did a fire department one for a guy. I had a guy wanted like kind of the chrome that you see on a truck, like on the floorboard there. He wanted that, so I got a film that looked just like that. And
like a diamond plate or something.
It's exactly a chrome diamond plate, and that's what he wanted on a skull. So I mean, there's thousands of opportunities out there, and I always tell the people, like, I'll give it a shot. I don't know how it's going to come out because each brand's a little bit different, but I've had quite good success with that here lately. I had a guy just recently bring me in. He wanted real tree, and I'm like, I do mossy oak. I do true timber. I've never done real tree. It's branded. It's very hard to get, and that was a pain. That was I wouldn't recommend that, but it's just pretty much anything anybody can imagine. It's out there. I mean, colors. I mean, action figures. Anything you want. They have all these different things with flags. Is very popular up here where I'm at.
Okay.
So they have ones with Constitution, Second Amendment, just red, white, and blue. I mean, the sky's the limit here. So anything you want, I can probably get. And if I can't get it, odds are nobody else can either. And then with that too, I also do a lot of custom work. So recently I had a guy just come in. He wanted some custom cups. So I dipped them in a good camo. Actually, I have a pattern here. You can see it too.
Oh, yeah.
But it's that Cryptek that's new out. And I don't know if it's popular where you're at, but it's really starting to come on.
I've seen it quite a bit, yeah.
Where I'm at. So he wanted in Cryptek, and then actually put his logo for his business on it too. So I can smack that right on there. And it doesn't look like a sticker or anything. It looks like it's just part inside of the film. So I do a lot of work with those things too. But yeah, tons of opportunities. If you think about it, I did a specialty one for a guy. He was into Harry Potter, and I remember Harry Potter a few years ago, but that's not quite my genre. So
yeah,
he had me he looked up this logo he wanted smack on the deer's forehead, and I did it for him, and it came out pretty good if you're into those things. So all types of possibilities.
As far as the skulls go, are they clean when they come in, or
90% of them are not clean. I will have some people bring some in that are clean from the ones that were shot in previous years, or things they had lying around, maybe their grandfather shot or something like that. So I do get that in occasionally, but 90% of the ones I get in are just cut off right from the butcher. They cut them off at the shoulder themselves. So they come in. Typically, I tell people, just let me do the work on them. I'll skin them. I'll do everything we need to. So just chop them off. Don't even mess with them, because that's when things get, interesting sometimes. People who don't know what they're doing.
right?
But I'll prep them up, and I have beetles. So I have, they multiply like crazy, but I would say probably 40, 50,000 of them at this point.
Oh, wow.
And I keep a lot of them.
Yeah.
And if you ever seen like the Mummy, like movie, like where like the roaches and ants, everything just kind of overtakes everybody, I can put something into my like containers that I have these beetles in, and within 5 or 10 seconds, it's completely engulfed. Like it's unreal how much they go for this stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, it's mesmerized me. But it's interesting.
Are those called dermastid or something, beetles? Is that
Yep.
the proper term?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on the pronunciation. That's definitely what I use. I got them, I believe, out of Oregon. There's a guy out there that specializes in them, and he sends them in to me. And like I said, they kind of, you keep them at their ideal temperature, and they have to be watered. It's kind of like a pet. You got to take care of it each day. But they multiply like crazy after the lifespan, a few months. And they just keep going from there on.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear about like taxidermy work, because a lot of stuff you see, guys kill their deer and they take it in, and the next thing you know, it's here and on your wall, and nobody thinks about how to clean them. And beetles, a lot of people don't realize that people use beetles. They think you just pressure wash them, or you just drop them off and they come back magically shiny. So I'm sure a lot of people would like to hear about, kind of the process of it all. How long does it take to clean, like, I don't know, a whitetail skull and some beetles? A couple days, or?
Oh, in deer season, I have them hungry, so I have the temperatures and stuff just right. This time of year, I try to keep them a little more dormant, where they don't eat as much, but they eat quite a bit. But around deer season, if I put one in, it can be under 12 hours. Really, they go to town on it. Oh yeah.
What are they eating?
Eye, brain, everything. They clean it. They clean it completely off.
Wow.
Yeah.
Every little piece of meat, huh?
Everything gets taken out. Yeah. Now, when I get deer season here and I have a ton of them coming in and stuff, I'll trim them up a little bit just because for my time constraints. But I mean, no, I can put a whole head in there and it'll be gone. It'll be gone.
You keep those beetles for the next season? I guess you feed them all year, or?
I do, and that's kind of another interesting thing I'm running into, because now, like, I have all these beetles and they're hungry every day, so I got to keep them fed. So typically, if I found like a roadkill or something like that, I kind of take it off of there and then freeze the meat. But this past year, I tried to prep ahead a little bit. So some of the heads that come in, I'd take off some of the meat off of them and just start throwing them in like big garbage bags to freeze. So I have something throughout the year. I've been fortunate lately. I've had a lot of people bring in steer heads for me, so I haven't had to really dip into my own, preserved meat for them. And I had another guy bring in all types of like small game heads. So I've been feeding them the past 2 months. It's been working out pretty well. I haven't had to go too much in my reserves, but the last thing I want to do is go out to the grocery store and buy meat for these bugs.
I imagine they, it's probably a job keeping them fed. I didn't think about, I kind of thought maybe you got new ones every year, but it probably gets pricey. I bet they're
crazy expensive. I wish I could tell you like a number even off the top of my head, but I mean, you're talking hundreds of dollars for not many at all. It's
really
crazy expensive. Now, I might add a few this year, but I mean, maybe not too. It just depends. I have a few tanks going right now. I think I'm up to 5 or 6 right now that I can have running at the same time. So they just constantly just keep going through stuff.
So do you, for anybody listening, do you take stuff in from other states, or you just take local stuff? How's that kind of work? Are you allowed to ship that kind of stuff?
So most of it's local. I have had some people ship from out of state. I believe with the CWD and stuff like that, they do not want you shipping brain parts and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely check on your state regulations for that. But I have people that kind of clean them off themselves, get most of the brain, eyes, things off, and then they'll like wrap them in saran wrap or something and ship them to me. And I mean, that's perfectly fine. The Beetles do the rest. And I've also had people from out of state definitely hit me up with ones that were kind of cleaned, or they might have threw out in their barn or their yard, and it's pretty well cleaned for the past few years. And they'll ship them to me like that, and I'll get them processed. It's as long as they're in pretty good shape and they haven't been damaged or anything, I can usually do a lot of things to make them look good. Sometimes the whitening with them gets a little more difficult. There's a lot of oil and stains that go into that skull sometimes. If you don't get them out sometimes quick, it can be a little harder to get them out. But yeah, pretty much with the dipping side, I can make them look brand new again.
And then you take like as far as like the Cerakote or different things, what do you just do like cups? You can do anything anybody sends you.
Pretty much anything anybody sends me. It's mostly firearms. I have my FFL, so people like right from their home can just ship their firearm to me. Comes right to my doorstep. We don't have to go through any other process, and I can ship it right back to you in one piece.
Okay.
So it's kind of convenient that way for out of state too. I've been getting some from the out west lately, asking for some custom things. And again, some of these outfitters and things with their brand and stuff on their rifles and things like that, so they can send them to me, and it's pretty easy peasy that way.
I've got some links down here if you guys are watching on YouTube, so you can get a hold of Dr. Farr, and I'll have you go ahead and tell everybody who's listening on another platform kind of where to find you. If you want to maybe talk about your website, where to find you on Instagram or TikTok or whatever. That way, if they're not watching, they'll still be able to look you up.
Yeah, pretty much my website's where a lot of my photos are, galleries, up-to-date things, prices, ways to contact me, and that's Drop-Tine CustomSkullDipping.com. I am on TikTok, and that's just Drop-Tine Custom Skull Dip. I will say TikTok to me is kind of a new media. I've been playing around with it on my personal account for some time, but I really need to step it up in that area for the TikTok game. Facebook, I'm on all the time again, and also Instagram, and that's Drop-Tine Custom Skull Dip. Like I said, I'd say definitely the Facebook and the websites where you want to hit me up. Contact information, address, everything. A lot of the projects that I've been working on, I put up on there as pictures. I just had a big giveaway I just did here this past weekend for Labor Day, so definitely worth checking out.
Okay, cool. Let's dive into hunting in Pennsylvania. I know I've read all kinds of stuff about it, but I've never really talked to anybody that lives and hunts in Pennsylvania. So what can you tell me about it?
Where I'm at, it's rural, but it's I want to say a lot of farmland. It's a lot of mountains too, so nothing like real crazy as far as big mountains or anything like I'm sure you guys are used to. A lot of it's just a lot of private acreage around me, small mountains, little hedgerows, fields, things of that nature. If I go up about an hour north of me, like they call like Sullivan County, closer to the New York border, they turn into big woods up there. And a lot of people have cabins up that way, and they go up and hunt big woods too. But around here where I'm at, it's mostly privately owned. We do have a lot of game lands around too. So PA has a lot of area that you can hunt if you don't have your own land. Like ironically, less than a half mile up the road for me is a pretty good sized game land. So I have access to that right away, like literally 2 minutes up the road. But most people in my area kind of hunt private land or people they know, kind of idea like that. Small, it used to be 10 years ago, 15 years ago, even when I was a kid, you could walk for miles and deer hunt. You'd get these big gangs of people that would push deer, for miles, and you kind of, first day or two, they might take 10, 15, 20 buck off of it very easily. But now how everybody's kind of owning things and everybody gets a little upset if you get close to them and stuff, like it's a lot of just private land. I do a lot of sitting in my tree stand, especially for archery and gun season. We will do some pushing and stuff with deer. We'll get them out, in some thick stuff or something, but it's not too common here where I'm at. But again, we have game lands right up the road. There's 2 guys that brought some monsters into me this year. I mean, trophy white-tailed deer that was shot less than a mile from my house that we kept hearing about, but we couldn't see them. So they definitely exist that way. And like I said, the Game Commission does a good job with that. They also do a lot of pheasant recovery and things of that nature too. So you can go up there, and if you have a dog and kind of know what you're doing, you can probably get on some pheasants and stuff.
Is there a lot of ag around you guys? Like around where I'm at, we've got corn and soybeans is like everywhere.
Tons,
Yeah.
tons. I would say that's the majority of it. A lot of it in my area has turned more into like big farming. So a lot of the family farms that you used to have, they're just getting bought out by these bigger places now. But pretty much all the farmers that, still have land. My uncle's a farmer, so we hunt on him quite a bit. But they, corn, soybeans, typical things, sometimes hay. But we're starting more, I would say, in the past 5 years, 10 years, especially in the last few years here. The food plots has really taken off. So,
oh, really?
Oh, we've been hearing about it for years. I've been putting them in for probably the past 10, 15 years. And when I started, everybody's like, you don't know what you're doing. We have all these cornfields here. We have all this. And they couldn't believe me until I started putting in these little half-acre and 1-acre food plots, which are like nothing in size to their 100-acre cornfield that's 200 yards from me. Guess who's shooting the monster deer? This guy.
They're coming into
they
that,
come into
that
my
different
food
stuff.
plot. Yep.
What do
And
you
they like
generally
that.
put? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, and I don't even put a lot of it out, but it's like I typically plant a lot of brassicas, so turnips,
Okay.
rape, things of that nature, and they do excellent for me. And I try to put them in just here in the past, usually anywhere from mid-July till like now. So our archery season comes in the end of September, early October. So you get a good 30, 45-day growth on it. They start to come up where they do well. And then when the frost hits them, it just turns sweet. And if you do it right and know what you're doing, I try to plant a few different things in different areas too. But if you know what you're doing, you can time it almost perfect for bow season when the rut hits. And, we have an early muzzleloader season in mid-October. They're crazy, my food plots, hardcore. My one food plot's across the road from me here, a few hundred yards, and I see there's 6 or 7 deer on it right now. So, they're hammering it. If they actually make it to rifle season at like Thanksgiving or, it's about done because they've just polished them off.
So are you
that's usually that will be. But
are you typically set up on your food plot then on opening day, like bow season? What's that look like?
It depends on the weather. Depends on our weather here is crazy. Sometimes I know last year in bow season it was like 80 degrees at the end of September, and it was miserable. So it depends on kind of what's going on. Typically, we'll hit the woods a little harder as the rut comes on, and as it gets a little cooler out that October time. So a lot of times people will hit the food plots early archery season, things of that nature, especially like at night. A lot of these deer are almost like clockwork. Once they start coming in and hitting the food plots at night, last 2 hours or so, they'll come in and pretty good opportunity for it.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering if those like the turnips or whatever, if they take a couple weeks after season comes in for them to really start hitting them.
Oh yeah, as soon as they get mature, so usually like around 40, 50 days, and then as soon as you get a first frost, a real good cold ground, those turnips turn sweet, and they will go absolutely bonkers for them. They're cruising my food plots now, but as soon as I get a good frost, they'll hammer it like no tomorrow. So, and I try to put on like a lot of stuff with heavy tonnage on it too, so I get a lot of it back out, high protein, high crude things. So a lot of the growth there. We can't really bait or do anything in my area. They're pretty stringent on that, which is how I've always hunted. But so we do a lot of these food plots. The past few years, they have let us put out some minerals. But again, there's even restrictions on that. So I put out, I think it's called Lucky Buck. There's a few different brands that we use here that do pretty well. But even with that, I believe I can have it out yet here another day or two. And then even that, I got to pull it off. You got to scrape the ground and things like that. It's like, I think it's 30, 35 days before season starts. So.
Oh, wow. I think ours is 10 days. So I hunt Kentucky and Indiana, but in Kentucky you can bait. But in Indiana, I think it's 10. It may be 14 days. But yeah, you have to clear out the ground. Even if it's been a mineral lick, you got to dig everything out. And
That's it. ours is 30 days, and they're pretty hard here with the game commission in our area. If they get a hint of you baiting or doing anything even half sketchy, they will find out about it and they will get you. So it's not even worth the time. I mean, I sometimes put it on like stumps or logs and stuff like that, and I mean, I scrape it and stuff, but you can still see it
Yeah,
crystallizes over and stuff sometimes a few months later. I mean, there's not much you can do.
it's hard to
It's
get
what
it
these,
all
you know,
out.
yeah, the companies are kind of engineering it to do that, so it's hard to kind of reverse it. But no, we play it all by the games and everything up here. It's all
Yeah, I
good.
know. I know at a local, we have like a Roll King. I don't know if you guys have that where you're at, but it's like a farm store, but they sell different, like different bait and stuff that you put out. But they make one now. I shown my wife the other day that it looks like dirt. So when you pour it out, it's food, but it's hidden from the game warden. So those
Oh my,
sometimes those companies, man, they know what they're doing because people know that they got to get that stuff out. But they don't want to pull it. So
get
you got to
out of
be
here.
careful doing that stuff.
I've not heard or seen anything like that up here yet, but I'm sure it's probably going to be on the market at some point. That's what it is.
Aren't you guys? I feel like I've heard this, and maybe I'm wrong. Are you guys super regulated on using like deer pee? Don't you have to use synthetic or something in Pennsylvania, or is that not a thing?
No, you're right. Most of it has to be synthetic. Now they changed something here. I would say in the last 2-3 years that you can use natural stuff, but
Okay.
I'm trying to think of it's like trying to think of the one company here locally. It's like hot dough or something like that. I mean
Hmm.
they do it, but most of it's definitely synthetic. Yeah, it's just kind of what we've been doing. I heard too something with what they're looking to change, even with the regulations or something like that, that might not be an option here in another year or so. Something about it has to be a different airborne thing or something. It's something crazy, but they're already trying to market it something different already. There's a I can't think of the company. I was at a seminar here a few weeks ago, and there's like a new. It just kind of disperses it out through the air. So you
Hmm.
put your deer urine in it, and it's a special like canister, and you hit the button, and it just kind of sprays it out. And
It's
they're
kind of
saying
like a vaporizer or something.
exactly like a vaporizer. It costs a lot more money, but yeah, like a
Huh.
vaporizer. And they're saying within the next year or two, that's what the game wardens, like in the laws, are going to get tailored more to that because something with disease and something I'm not 100% sure on it, but with the genetics, they're
Yeah,
starting to be a
they're
little more stringent.
trying to keep the deer from licking it, I guess, out of the drippers
I,
and everything
yeah,
else.
and we don't usually use like too much of that or the drippers and stuff. I mean, I have probably some of the same synthetic stuff that you guys have up
Hmm.
here, but we don't. Occasionally, I'll put something on. I'll drag it through like up to my stand or something. Or if it's prime rut season, I'll throw some down in front of me, or I have like those little like wicks that you can hang on a tree or something. But
Hmm.
I mean, I maybe use it 5-10 times a year. It's not that often, really. We don't get much from it. If you do it in the early season, you really get nothing out of it. You have
Yeah.
about a good 2-3 week window where it works great, and even then, it just kind of depends how you mix it up, and there's a lot of variables. I have this like a little grenade, and again, I can't remember the company with this, but it shoots out this vapor. And I've
Oh,
had that.
I think I've seen that
It's
before.
like Hunt. I think it's Hunt Scent owns it, something of
Yeah.
that nature. But
Hmm.
I just look on a little remote, and I've been using that the past few years, and they're like different types of urine, but they even have like apple smells and stuff like that now too. But I did that the past year here in primo rut, just coming on. I knew it was good, and I set that thing down in front of me, and I set that off. And I'm telling you, in one night, primo rut here in PA, I had 24 different bucks come up and hit that thing.
Wow.
and where I'm at, like 24 buck is like that's a lot of deer. That's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, we have doe like crazy, but I mean, I'll get where I hunt. I mean, we have maybe 100, 150 acres, but these deer travel like crazy. I mean, we'll all know, like in my town, the shooter deer that we all want. Like we've all seen it out spotting, and there's
Everybody's got it
usually,
on camera.
oh yeah, absolutely. I'll see it on my camera, and then like 2 or 3 weeks from now, my buddy will send me the picture out of his camera. It's just 2.5 miles away. It's the same deer. So I mean, they travel here like crazy, but yeah, there's typically 6 or 8 real nice deer, like trophy deer in the area that you want, and then there's still a lot of like really, really, really nice buck, kind of in the area, but then there's a lot of just scrubs and stuff. Our doe to buck ratio, I think, right here immediately, probably like 12-1, 15-1. It's really lopsided one way.
Yeah.
So, and this year's the first year since I think ever. But like years ago when I was younger, it used to be a 3-day doe season after a 2-week buck season of rifle season. Then when I was still a kid, they switched it over that you had 1 week of doe season, which is the second week. And that's how it's been for years. So you could hunt buck or doe in archery season. They had a muzzleloader season that's early for 1 week where you could shoot doe. And then other than that, you had 1 week to harvest doe. Now this year, first time ever, and we're just new to this Sunday hunting thing too. That just came on the past year.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that too.
We always been that Monday right after Thanksgiving was the first day of buck season. You go 2 weeks, the second week or that first Saturday, you could shoot doe for 1 week. So the past year they opened it up that we're starting on Saturday now. And then they just this past year opened it up to Sunday hunting. So all the schools, all the business up here, they're off the first 2 days of deer season, like that typical Monday and Tuesday. So a lot of us now are getting like 3 or 4 days to hunt right off the bat, which is really nice. But this year, and I think this is going to be an epic nightmare. You can shoot buck or doe the first day, the full 2 weeks, because they are trying to hammer the doe out of my area because there's just too many, way too many. I mean, our county, and I can't give you an approximate size, it's not that big, but I think there was like 45,000 or 47,000 doe tags issued.
Wow.
Like tons.
So you said they let kids out of school for opening?
Oh yeah. It's like a holiday up here.
Really?
So we go Thanksgiving. We're off. Usually most schools are off the day before Thanksgiving or a half day. And then you're off until usually Tuesday or Wednesday of that next week because everybody goes out and hunts. It's just one of those things that Monday and Tuesday. It'll be interesting to see if some of the schools now, I think they'll always probably keep that Monday there open for people. But they might start reverting back, taking that Tuesday back kind of thing like that and see what happens. But, oh, yeah, it's a holiday up here, deer season.
I may have to have you guys' school board call down to my town and talk back and forth. I don't think that would go over too well where I'm at.
It's just like a tradition here. It's wacky. Like I said, now in the past 2 years we had that Saturday. This year we had this Sunday added. So again, for me, I'm getting 4 days to hunt that I don't have to take off work or anything right off the bat, which is nice.
So you plan on shooting very many does now, or how you feel about all that?
I have 2 tags. Typically, like I go for trophy deer, but my uncle's farm, we have so many doe, and we have farmers around us and Amish and Mennonite, and I mean they will hammer our crops like no tomorrow. So I'll probably fill my tags. I would say typically we do a lot of bologna, jerky, dried venison, stuff like that. So we'll probably fill them, but we try to, like, especially the things that we like try to manage and things. We don't take too many. We try to keep an idea for the year how much roughly are there, and then kind of balance it out each year. Yeah. I know the one property we hunt, we didn't take any off last year because the year before we let it fly. So it just depends on. But there's definitely the buck to doe ratio, doe to buck ratio is just completely whack here, and I think that definitely needs to get solved out some.
I bet people have different opinions on that stuff too, because if they hunt public, they're not as, they don't care as much because the deer, if you're managing a farm, you kind of know your inventory and different stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But guys are out on public, they're trying to get what they can get. So I see both sides of it.
And our farmers here, the Game Commission's really relaxed. If you are a farmer, you work for a farmer, your cousin's a farmer, you can go and shoot deer every day of the year. There's no limits. And you just call the game warden and say, hey, I shot a deer. Sometimes they'll come out and look. Sometimes they won't. I mean, it's very chill that nature. So a lot of the hunters here in the next, month or so that have these bigger farms, they'll just start letting them fly now and to kind of start taking them off. And it's a lot of people get upset with things like that too, but it's like, knowing that my uncle has this farm and a few of my friends that are small farmers and stuff, I can see the damage they do to these properties. But like a
Mm-hmm.
deer won't go through and eat one, stalk of corn. It'll go and it'll take 2 bites off of one ear, a bite off another ear, and like it won't even be the same stalk, and just graze through that whole field and like completely kill it off. I mean, the guy up the road from me here, a few hundred yards, he puts out, I think it's 20 acres of corn roughly each year, or soybeans. He kind of flip flops. But the past 8 years, he has not taken $1 off that property. He completely loses himself every year because of deer hammer it.
Wow.
Yeah, so I
They
mean, it's an issue.
are you guys a $1 state?
We're a $1 state. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what I was thinking, but I wasn't 100% sure. Do you have is there antler restrictions and stuff? Where I'm from, that's not like a thing, so I'm not really even sure about antler restrictions and all that. But I know some other states have them.
It is the past, I would say, 10, 12 years. I remember it was kind of when I was a kid, they instituted it and we were all grumpy about it. But you have to have 3 points on one side. So
Okay.
you can shoot one deer that only has one half a rack. If it has 3 points on it, you can shoot it. But it has to have at least three on, unless you're like a junior hunter, a kid. And then seniors, I believe, also have like they can pretty much shoot whatever little spikes and stuff.
It's got to
So
be what are they calling like a point? Like three? I know here
three
like
inch,
a 3 inch.
3 inches, yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
That's what they call it here. If you shoot a spike here, let's say that's under 3 inches, you can actually tag it as a doe because a lot of people,
Wow.
they'll shoot it and they'll think it was a doe if they shot it at low light, and if it's under measurable under 3 inches, it's considered a doe. But I figured the 3 inch thing was like maybe like a national thing that they use. So I guess it is.
I think that's kind of what the terms are here lately for what it is. I'll tell you, sometimes even in archery season and stuff, it's hard to see if they have little horns.
Yeah.
It's hard to pick it out, just especially when they're in brush and stuff like that. They also have a thing here, like if you mistake kill, so if you shoot a spike or you shoot that only has one that has like two on it, you
Hmm.
can call the game commission and they'll come out. It's like $25. You got to pay the fine. Sometimes they take the deer. Sometimes they give you a new tag. Kind of depends on the situation, but it's not like a slap on the wrist. Too bad. So there's just not
Yeah.
deer laying in the fields everywhere that people accidentally mistake. But most people are pretty good. Don't get me wrong. Stuff happens sometimes when you're out hunting, and I've heard stories and stuff. But yeah, it's pretty good managed that way.
I'm guilty of it. I know I've shot two spikes before, one during archery season when I first started bow hunting and one during shotgun season when I was younger that I both thought were does. So I mean, it happens. Sometimes you get in low light those last 5-10 minutes or
Yep.
early in the morning. It's kind of can be hard to tell.
It is, and they just opened it up here in PA too that we can now start to shoot multiple deer at one point. So in the past, if I was out archery hunting and let's say a nice doe come in cruising and I shot it, I'd have to go down, I'd have to drag it out, field dress it, the whole deal, get it to your truck, tag it, the whole, caboodle. Now I can sit in my stand if I want. If there's a buck that comes cruising behind it, I can shoot at the same time. So as long as you have tags now,
That's
you
really
can shoot.
strange that was a
Yeah,
thing
they
before.
just started that. They just started that.
Wow.
But a few years back, I was hunting some farmland and I had a muzzle loader and I shot this doe and it was out 150 yards or so, good one. And I got up and I was with my buddy and I had two tags. Fortunately, he had a tag too, but I whacked one right through the neck and it went right through another one, hit it right in the head. And there's two deer laying there, and I'm like, what are we gonna do? Kind of thing. But yeah, it's changing here lately. I think for the better a little bit. They're starting to get a little more ideas. Definitely the doe tags. Definitely some options. The Sunday hunting here in PA was a huge controversy. That took years to come through. And even if you kind of even whisper that out in public, like you'll have some people, even among hunters, that they're okay with it, and other ones downright hate it. The whole concept of it all together. So
Does does
this
that
this
does that
past
have to
year, there
do
wasn't
with
many out.
Does that have to do with like church and stuff and like old school like businesses being closed on Sunday? Is that kind of the
Ah,
the deal, or is it like the day of rest or?
I think part of it's just the mindset. I think part of it's just how they've been doing it for so many years. I mean, there's a lot of people that go to church and stuff up here in the area,
Mm-hmm.
so that happens. But I mean, I am a proponent of it just because it gives me usually another day or two in the woods, and we only get it's either 3 or 4 Sundays out of the year that we can hunt. All the other ones are completely closed down. So we'll get one in rifle season, that first one in bear, one in archery. There might be one other one that we can hunt Sundays, but otherwise they're still closed for the year. You can't hunt unless it's crows or groundhogs or something like
Yeah.
coyotes. Other
Yeah,
than that, you can't.
that's almost a 4 days or whatever. That's almost a whole week. So I mean, yeah, those
Right.
days definitely add up.
Absolutely. For me, I enjoy it, especially because like I said, it gives me that 3 or 4 day to kind of start out with, and it's like I've said to people, and again, it's probably not always the most popular thing, but like I can fish on a Sunday, I
Yeah.
can drink on a Sunday, I can gamble on a Sunday, I can do everything else I want to do in life, except go out and shoot a deer, which is a day I typically have off. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
just jump on board at this point. But you gotta be careful who you talk to. Like I said, especially the older generation, they are not in for it. That's we
Yeah.
went out the past year, and I mean, we heard some shots, but there was not many people out hunting that Sunday. I can tell you that. A lot of people
Really.
just didn't go. No.
Just
So
despised it. I guess you see it. It is. I was kind of wondering if it was going to be something more common among like older generations because they'd grown up with that. So maybe eventually that will kind of maybe the hate against that will fade out.
yeah, I'm hoping so. There's really no middle ground on it. It's either you're gung ho for it or how dare you. So it's just kind of one of those things.
So the shooting one deer thing and dragging them back to your truck, and then what was the reasoning behind that? What do
I,
you think? No idea. No
no,
logic behind
no,
that either.
no idea. I can't tell you why because I can't tell you how many times in the past 20 years of me hunting, or I'd shoot something with my rifle or my bow, and 2 seconds later, a monster buck comes walking out to me, or 20 other doe come stand right underneath my tree stand, and I can't do nothing about it. And it's never made much sense to me, but that's kind of just one of those things that they had in the laws. And again, this year we can start to let them have it again. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm glad we touched on that because I'd always heard like different funny stories about Pennsylvania and like their Sunday hunting laws and all these like weird laws. But like I said, I'd never talked to anybody from Pennsylvania, so I was kind of always skeptical if some of that stuff was really true. But apparently, it is.
I probably 90% of what you heard about PA hunting is pretty accurate. I mean, except for maybe the land and things like that. But it's a big thing. I mean, I think they said here a few weeks ago that like the first 2 or 3 days of deer season, typically there's more hunters in the woods here in PA alone than what we have like staff full time military. So it's insane. It's crazy. It's a big thing. It's a big thing. So.
Can we touch a little bit about your plans for this fall?
Yeah, so this summer I actually been doing a lot of renovation to my shop, just trying to get things a little more access, more room, upgrading, water, electrical, drying process, things of that nature, things how I can kind of turn them around a little quicker. There's a guy outside the region that does dipping, and sometimes you're talking 9, 10 months till you get turnaround, sometimes a year from when you
Mm-hmm.
take your skull in, which and typical taxidermy here in the area, that's about a year. I really try to like push them through pretty quick. I mean, they're high quality and everything, but I mean, I'll go crazy for a few weeks, and I try to get as many done as I can quickly, so it's back in their hands within a few weeks or month or two at most. So a lot of things I did this summer is just prepping for that. I got a few more containers for my Beetles, things of that nature, and then the big thing here for me is just advertising. So I've been kind of hitting that circuit, trying to figure out where I want to put out different signs, things of that nature. I've been playing around with different films this summer, so I have I don't know if you could like I have like 15 or 20 different like films back behind me that I kind of recommend and I have
Mm-hmm.
on my website and stuff that I think work great. They're most the camos, the popular ones, but I did probably 50 or 60 different ones this summer that I thought would be popular. So kind of just experimenting with them, being comfortable with them, having even more of a wide variety. But again, if you want something crazy, I can get it and I'll definitely give it a shot where most people won't. So definitely prepping a lot that way, and checking our cell cameras quite a bit here for deer and stuff too. They're starting to move pretty good. So that's just part of the season. I think we're open up. It's the end of September this year. It's usually the end of September, beginning of October for archery season.
Right now, you guys do a lot of like glassing from fields, check cameras. How's that usually work? Like for your preseason, you have pre-hung stands, or you hunt out of climbers or saddles, or
Depends on the person. I mean, spotlighting here in the area is pretty popular. You see people go out at night, and you'll get lit up quite a bit in fields and stuff. But everybody has game cameras now. And then a lot of people have these cell cameras. Now, I mean, I switched over the past 2 years, and it's a game changer because it just hits them up. You know right away if there's a nice deer there, things of that nature. So a lot of people are hitting the game cameras. A lot of people have, like, especially on these private lands, stands they've sat in for the past 10 or 15 years. Or some people are putting these farms, like these bigger, like redneck or 360 type blinds. Or even like ones that they're building, high end ones. They're like Taj Mahal stands. I mean, they're heated and, practically like a house out in the woods.
Yeah, like cutting out of your living room.
It is. My friend has one. We call it the Taj Mahal because I think you can get 8 people in it. It has recliners in it, heat, and it's like it overlooks this big field. And I'm like, dude, that's not hunting. That's like hanging out and just shooting.
Yeah.
But I hunt a few ladder stands. I have 2 climbers, 2 or 3 hang-ons. I'll move the climbers around, especially like when it gets middle of season quite a bit. I'll start moving them through. But other than that, I mean, we hunt with ground blinds. We hunt just edges of field, things of that nature. So it just depends on what you want. Usually, most people now will have their stands kind of where they want to be at for the year. Usually in the summer, I start moving things around or buy a few more different places I want to and kind of get them out there so the deer are somewhat used to them, or it's a little more natural maybe.
I'm glad you brought up cell cameras. I've been kind of interested in maybe getting one, but I have looked and I'm not fully invested in it, I guess, yet. I'm kind of wondering what it costs. I know kind of what the camera costs, but what I've looked online, it seems to be pretty high as far as like registering one camera. How does that kind of work with your cell service?
It is, and I'm not sponsored by anybody or promoting anybody, but I use Spy Point. I've seen a few of the other ones that my friends had, and we use Moultrie, all those different ones that are out there. Spy Point, I think, is more geared towards the recreational hunter, I think you'd maybe say, or not the die hard, but their plans are pretty cheap. They give you a free plan of 100 pictures per month. So, I mean, depending on where you put it, and you can set the times on them, how much you want them to capture and stuff. But if you're just kind of a recreational hunter, you can get a few of these cameras and not have to pay anything for a fee. And then they'll get them out for like a few bucks for 1,000, or you can go unlimited on them too. Now, some of the other companies, I think my one friend has 5 or 6 around his property, and it's like $60-80 a month. It gets pricey that way. But
yeah, so you just add them to your phone plan, I guess, or is that how it works, or is it through something else?
It's hit and miss. So like the ones I have, you buy it, you can purchase it through an app. So you'll just hit your credit card that way. Some of them are like specific AT&T or Verizon cell, so it depends on that. You can add them. Where I'm at, if you add them just your regular cell plan, they rake you over pretty hard on it. They're not usually too friendly with that. You're better off going through the company. Getting them that way.
Yeah, because I know I looked at one through AT&T, and I think it was like, I can't even remember. It was $10 or $15 a month per camera, which, $10 here, but if you got 5-6 cameras, it can add up fast. So I know I think sorry.
Spy Point's what I use, and it's a few bucks for more photos than I need per month per camera. And even some of my cameras, I just let them on the free plan depending on where they're at. So I get 100 decent ones, and then it tells you when they fill up for the month and stuff too. But some of my less trafficked areas, I'll set them to like, maybe a 2-minute delay or something on them. But it just it just depends. And they record too, and they'll take pictures too. Like once it fills up and stops sending them to me, they'll just put it on the card anyways. So it's not a bad idea. But yeah, you can get a lot of money in these cameras and how you start monitoring them. And a lot of the advanced features now, they have like buck trackers and stuff on them. So you upload them to your computer and say, oh, this deer was at this camera, but it's also at this camera kind of thing. It's
Wow.
a lot of high tech going into it now, but I think it's going like crazy here in my area. It seems in PA we're a little bit behind the curve around compared to the rest of the U.S. and some of this hunting gear and things. And like, I'll start telling people about these things I order, things I'm reading about, and they just look at me like I have 3 heads, and they're like, that'll never work. I had cameras here the past few years, and like, why would you want to do that? I'm like, because I can see, and I have one set up exclusively for trespassers.
Yeah.
That's its sole purpose, is for me to see when somebody walks on my land that they know they're not supposed to be there, that I know instantly. So if I'm in the area, I can go out and, tell them get going. So
it's funny to listen to like talk about people that hunt private versus public too, because I would really love to have a cell camera, but I hunt some public, semi-public, private, like old coal mine ground. So I kind of worry about, a $300 camera getting stolen. So
oh yeah.
sometimes I'll just go buy a $30-$40 like Wild Game Innovations. They don't take the best pictures, but they give me a little bit of info. And if it gets jacked, then, so be it.
I have a half a dozen of them, and I use them usually a few years, and then they'll break or they'll get frozen, and I'll put them out as dummy cameras then.
Yeah.
So I'll kind of let it in an area where somebody thinks, oh, right there is the camera, but I had you 30 feet earlier from there or something. So
caught you trespassing and stealing the camera.
Yeah, and it's crazy, and I don't like to paint that picture, but I mean, we have people that come up from the city, or southern PA or New York, out of state, and we'll lose tree stands, we'll lose game cameras, we'll lose. There was somebody this past year that shot 3 bear on us, and we know for a fact they road hunted those bears and shot them, and it wasn't too happy about that kind of thing. But they'll, I'd say for every few thousand people that do it the right way and, ethical and all that, you get maybe a handful that are knuckleheads. And that's why we have all these crazy rules we have. Like, we can't go out like spotlighting with even like a weapon in our car, right?
Yep, that's a thing here too.
That's a thing there too.
Yep.
So, but yeah, it's typically like the road hunters, things of that nature. People from the city, we have a lot of issues with. Everybody up this way kind of just respects each other. They put, where everybody's land's at. It's not a big problem. And like, I'm not one of these like crazy put out 50 posters kind of person. If you shoot a deer and it comes over onto my property, go get it.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm ethical. Give me a text, whatever. I'll say, go get it. I'll help you get it out. It's not an issue. But don't come in sneaking behind me when you know you're not supposed to be there and you're 50 to 100 acres on the property and you got lost.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. I mean,
that's poaching.
But yeah. Oh,
that's poaching for sure.
And it's typically that city folk from our regions, at least with the ones we catch and have problems with.
You feel like that's a lot of people that are just maybe weekend guys, or just kind of like one weekend a year kind of guys, don't really keep up with the regs, or?
Yeah, nope. That's I would say that weekend guy that come up to the cabin, they'll drink and play cards and make it out maybe a day or two, and that's about it. And then you'll notice because they'll have different hunting clothes than everybody typically wears, like something new, something, they'll have a high-end gun, these big trucks that I wouldn't go driving in these fields for.
Yeah.
But you can pick them out, put it that way. You can pick them out pretty easy. You can tell they don't put too many miles on their boots walking or hunting much. So, I'm not painting a picture to all these city people. It's just typically where I'm at. We have people that come up from the city that lease some land next to us, and they're great.
Yeah.
I think part of it is they're just not maybe familiar. They weren't grown up with it. Yeah. And they just don't care about trespassing or anything. They just, whatever goes. If they can get a deer and go home and go into their business next week and be like, look, I shot this buck.
Yeah.
They're happy. So
I guess you guys get a lot of out of staters then.
Yeah, quite a bit. so they can get buck tags, and it's not crazy expensive to get like out of state licenses. So for me, I think I get bear, I get, archery, muzzleloader, turkey, most of the things. Like some of the waterfowl are like extra, tags and stuff add up, but it's like 60, $70 for something like that. Doe tags are $6, $7 a piece. So it's not crazy expensive. Now, out of state compared to like me looking out west and stuff, you get a few $100 and stuff. Here in PA, it's not. Doe tags I think are 15 maybe for out of state, and their hunting license it is more than ours, but it's not like crazy expensive, and it's not like you have to go wait on a counter or put in for a lottery or anything like that. You walk up the day before or the day of, and you get it. So
yeah, that's pretty reasonable. I know I know Illinois out of state, which is right next to me, is about 500 for a deer tag, which is pretty high. And then I hunt Kentucky, and it's around 300. So your numbers are, your prices aren't too bad, really.
No, they're really not at all. And again, I think we're just getting slow, but we are starting. Like I said, a lot of these regulations and stuff. There's people shooting these world-class deer now that are just nice, and I think it's getting a lot more people coming in hunting them now.
So I know you mentioned there's a lot of private. Is there very many options around you or just around the state for guys to come? Like if I was like, man, I killed a deer in Kentucky and I still got a week off work or something, I wanted to come over to Pennsylvania. I just find some public and go. Is there big tracks, or is it going to be packed like everywhere else? Or
it's a lot of farmland, a lot of hunting woods is private, but like right up for me, there's a few hundred acres at state game lands, and there's as much acreage as there's really not many people that hunt it, to be honest with you. You would think it'd be crazy busy, but it's not. And then if you head down the road, 15 miles or so the one direction, there's another few 100-acre plot of state game land. If I head up north 20 minutes, half hour, then there's a few thousand acres of state game land. So, I mean, there's definitely options for people if you don't have the land and stuff like that, especially if you know what you're doing, you understand hunting and stuff. You can definitely pull some deer. Like the guys that shot these monsters right up for me, they live within a mile or two, and they hunt public all the time, and they slam them. So
yeah,
it's definitely there.
Kind of just about doing your homework, or
I think that's majority of it. And it's sad to say, but like especially on public when we've hunted it, and we do occasionally. I'm fortunate. A lot of my friends have farms and woods or cabins, and I'm just very fortunate that way. But we hunted public a few times, different things throughout the year, and get maybe few hundred yards off the path, and that's kind of where everybody is. They don't want to walk up in a mile, half mile where the deer are, and it's just, I don't know if that's just the mentality anymore. These weekend hunters, once a year hunters, but
yeah,
you wouldn't have any problem running into anybody else. I can tell you that.
Do you think a guy could come to Pennsylvania and get on some public and probably shoot a deer pretty successfully?
Oh, I would think if you have a hunting background, get a little bit of the lay for the land, I would think very easily within a day or two you could shoot a deer. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. That's good to know. I know I'm trying to get different people on this show from different states and stuff, kind of let people know that you can go here and it's not too expensive, and you might, may kill out in your state and still have a week and want to travel to Pennsylvania and shoot a deer. But like I said, what you see on YouTube and on TV and everything is not always true. So it's good to hear a firsthand account from somebody that lives in like that area or that state.
And there's different parts of the state where there's just tons of deer. I mean, they can't shoot them enough. I mean, so even in those areas, you can definitely go in. I'm not saying you're going to shoot 150 or 180 coming in on public land. Like, I guess two guys up for me, they shot monsters. They shot the biggest in the region. They took them right off this public land. So it's there. But getting it on doe or something, absolutely. I'd have no doubt in that. And even a lot of the farmers and stuff around the area and people that own land, if you go up to their house and even approach them, 9 times out of 10, if you're just kind of cool and you're an ethical person, they're going to let you hunt because there's a deer problem.
Yeah.
I mean, some people not so much, but majority of people are like, yeah, go in, have at it. Like especially the farmers, they just
eating all their crops, taking all their money.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's almost to the point where a lot of these people aren't even planting stuff anymore just because the deer come in and wipe them out. So
I know we had like a big surge in hunting licenses last year, and it seems like I saw more people where I hunt in Kentucky last year during gun season. It could have just been a fluke. Does it seem like, I know you said you only hunt public sometimes. Did you see very many people, more people out last year because of COVID or?
I definitely think so. With the exception of that Sunday day hunt, I think a lot of people were out this past year compared to the last 5 or 6 years. Um, Conversely, I would say in the past 10, though, I would say like each year it kind of just decreases. I mean, the numbers seem to be the same, but like seeing people in the area and region, it doesn't seem like there's that many as out as what there was a few years back. And maybe that's just my perception of it, but I mean,
Yeah.
it seems that way. But definitely this past year, I would say with the COVID and stuff, a lot more people got out. There was a lot of people in our area that was not working at all. So people that hasn't hunted for the past 10, 15 years, maybe it's something they did when they was college or a kid, got back out and had that opportunity. So if there's anything positive this pandemic, maybe it got people reacclimated with hunting again to some degree.
I know it seems like it's coming back around my area, but not everything's really closed yet. So I'm kind of wondering how that's going to affect license sales and all that stuff this coming up season. But
I don't know. A lot of people here got them. We had to get our doe tags out. Like they're pretty much accounted for by now the past few weeks. But where I'm at in the state are public schools and like daycares. That's 100%. You have to wear masks all the time. A lot of these big employment places are now saying you either have to have a shot or something of that nature. So it's ramping back up, unfortunately, and hopefully it doesn't do too much. We joke at work because if we come in contact with somebody that has COVID or might have had COVID, or if we have a symptom, like they make us quarantine for 10 or 14 days, 10 typically right now. And it's like, we joke, and this is not a joke about anything with this pandemic, but it's like, I kind of hope if I'm going to come in contact with somebody, it's like during deer season. That's when I want to come in contact with somebody so I can go out and hunt that week.
Yeah, at least you won't be around anybody else.
That's right. Put me out in the middle of nature and let me do my thing for those times.
Getting some good old fresh air.
Yeah. I think it'll be pretty good this year. I anticipate it. I think economically too. I mean, for deer here to hunt, I mean, you can get processed up. Our beef sales are through the roof. I don't know if that's typical out there, but our beef prices went up, $2-3 a pound in the last 6 months, a year. Like, so I think just having an option as venison too might economically be better for a lot of people.
Yeah, we had an issue, or I had an issue last year. So our season starts. I live right next to Kentucky, so I'm only like 20 minutes away, but I hunt Kentucky and Indiana. So Kentucky starts early September, and then we have like a reduction zone for like city limits here that's like mid-September in Indiana, and then regular archery in Indiana is October 1st. So it's typically pretty warm. So last year I shot a deer pretty early, and I will usually take it to like a butcher, if it's hot, because I got to get it cooled down and everything. And we have like 3 or 4 around here, and I scrounge to find somebody because they were working on beef and weren't taking any deer because everything was so backed up. And they're like, we're not taking any deer. We don't even know if we're taking them during gun season. I'm like, what are all these people going to do? They're going to go out. They're going to go out and shoot deer on gun season. And they're everybody goes the same butcher every year or whatever. They're going to bring all these deer. They're going to be like, we're not taking them. So yeah, the beef thing was a thing around here last year for sure. I don't know if butcher's going to be open or not.
I have a few friends at butcher and stuff that I keep in contact with, and a few of them now will not take deer at all because they are booked out 9 months to a year on steer already. So I mean, for them, messing around with deer, I don't think is really worth their time. So a lot of like these people that did do it, I mean, we had one here in the area. It's like 10 minutes away, very well known. He would take gun season. We're talking 1,500, 2,000 deer. He's not taking any. He's not taking any. So it's like, it's a pinch. And I was just talking to my one friend that's a butcher. We don't know how this year is going to play out because when doe season typically comes in, a lot of people, these butchers have to turn them away because they can't take 100 deer with their coolers
Yeah.
or whatever. And with it being this year that anything flies the first day, I would imagine that in the first 2-3 days of people letting it fly, they're not going to be able to take them because I just don't know how they're going to be able to do them, process them. I don't know if they're going to try to get reefer trucks. I don't know, but it's going to be an issue. So
Yeah.
that'll be interesting.
Later in the year, you know, in the wintertime, I'm like, I can hang it in my garage or hang it in the tree a couple days and I can deal with it. But when it's like 90 degrees outside, I'm like, I
Oh,
got to get this thing in a cooler. Yeah.
yeah.
So some people, it's kind of worrisome, you know, people go out and shoot all those deer, especially where you're at. Now you're going to be able to shoot a bunch of does. You're going to have a bunch of rotten deer.
Oh, we primarily do our own. We'll make our own stuff, bologna and stuff. But too, even if it's hot and I shoot one in like an early muzzleloader, and if it's one of those 60-70 degree days, I'll send it up to one of my buddies and be like, just
Yeah.
you know, it's not worth it, especially if it's a good deer, to just have it rot. I mean, we ice the cavities and stuff like that too, but it's just doesn't always go. And our weather, it's hard to say what it's going to be sometimes in December. It's usually 30-ish range, 40-ish range, but some days it hits 65 or it might be cold and snow. It's all over the place.
What do you guys, what's your favorite thing to usually cook with venison? You guys eat quite a bit of it or?
Oh, I especially my family, my friends, like we all grew up on it. So it's just kind of one of those staple things that everybody eats venison. So we make bologna, we make jerky, I make sticks out of them, different types of sticks. I actually make a pretty good it's a burger recipe I have that I've been working on the past few years, but I put like bacon and cheddar and seasonings and everything in it, and I'll put it against anybody's beef burger they have out there. They will not know that's venison because we add the right amount of fat to it and stuff like that. And I mean, I have friends that come up from college that are city folk and they never had venison and they're plowing into some of my burgers or tacos or something. And I'll tell them later, like, by the way, and they're like, what? I'm like, yep, that's what that was. But we make everything. Actually, past few years, we've been doing bacon out of it. You ever had that?
I haven't.
Give it a shot.
I've heard of it, but I've never had it.
Give it a shot. It's you got to cook it a little bit different unless you add some fat to it, and we typically do. But it's kind of like more like like a maple kind of thing. But it's good. It's really good, but it's different from traditional bacon, what you have in mind. But they smoke it and season it, and that's coming to become quite popular here in the area too.
What kind of fat do you typically use?
So sometimes, depending on what it is, we can go and get like beef ends or something like that, or sometimes I'll add like synthetic stuff to it. But typically, we just go to like a local butcher or grocery store that still cuts stuff, and we just get stuff and add it into it that way. Pork ends, things of that nature, we'll add.
I know the butchers around here, like if you take your deer and you want to have something made, they like to use lamb fat a lot. I don't know if that's
lamb.
A thing yeah. They always offer, like if you want to have burgers made, if you go to a butcher here and you want to have burgers made, they'll offer you, you can have pork or lamb added to it. So I didn't know if that was a thing where you guys are from too, or.
Maybe I'm just out of touch, but like I said, I have a few friends. That's the one friend's a butcher. I have never heard him say anything about lamb fat ever.
Huh.
Never. That's the first time I've ever heard it.
Really?
No.
Maybe that's just a couple places around me. Maybe they're weird.
Pork ends, but again, it's not like you go to to get your deer processed and you're saying it's not even an option. Like either they do it or they don't, and if they do it, like it might just be in bologna or something. It's not that much. But yeah, I've never heard that before. It's interesting.
How do you make the bacon?
So the bacon, you ground it up, and there's go out hit one of these websites that have the seasoning and stuff. They have the seasoning and cure it, but you grind it up. You put it in a loaf pan kind of thing.
Okay.
And then we smoke it. So we'll smoke it up however long we think it needs to be, and we'll season it. And then you kind of take it out of the loaf pan and you slice it real thin with a belly slicer.
Mm-hmm.
It comes out pretty good. Yeah, it's definitely. You gotta be careful if you're not familiar with how to process meat and stuff, because some of those cures can be deadly. You got to use the right amount to it. But
Yeah.
most of these things you can buy over the counter anymore. Some of the popular names, they have them now for like the do-it-yourself person. I give it a whirl. It's pretty good. It's different.
You can find pretty much anything on YouTube nowadays, can't you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. These big, I mean, the Waltons and like some of these companies too, like that's what they specialize in. It's out there, accessible to anybody anymore.
So we're reaching just over an hour, so I have to close it down here in a minute. If you want to tell everybody again where to find you, I'm going to post your links up here again, maybe your website if they want to reach out to you and have some stuff sent to you, Cerakoted or skull dipping done. But just for the audio part, I'll have you tell them your website and stuff again.
Yep. By all means, check out my website. It's Drop-Tine CustomSkullDipping.com. And another easy way to get a hold of me is on Facebook, and that is also Drop-Tine Custom Skull Dipping. And there's options there to message me, call my cell, whatever. I'm pretty accessible that way. And don't think that you're too far or I'm living away too far to have a gun done or a firearm or something or a skull or some weird request. I had somebody in Oregon and Washington send stuff to me here recently. So, I mean, polar opposite from where I live, about as far as you can go, firearms and things. So if you have an idea and that's not something offered in your area, I can definitely do it and hook you up. And I'm pretty reasonable too. I try to, keep my prices and everything there for the everyday kind of hunter. It's not something you got to go out and spend crazy amounts on. It's actually a lot more reasonable than what most people would think.
Cool. Very cool. Well, Dr. Farr, I appreciate you coming on here and chatting. I'd like to maybe later in the season, October, November, maybe we'll get you back on and kind of see how your season went and
absolutely
see what you got going on in Pennsylvania.
Show you some of the record ones we're getting in for the area. Maybe even check out those Beetles.
Yeah, I'd love to see all that stuff for sure. Okay, man.
Yep.
Well, we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Have a good one. Thanks again.
You as well, buddy. Thank you.